you hear the Shapeshifters, and there is one track in particular that will always be synonymous with the name. But that's not what we're here to talk about. I want to get to know Simon Marlin. It's 2010. Been signed to Defected for a couple of years. You did the Defected in the House.
Yep.
And now 2010 to 2014, when Glitterbox starts, I can't find much about you.
There's a reason for that.
Okay.
Retrospectively thinking back now, that period that you've picked out, 2010 to 2014, is probably the period what I call the lost years of myself and Max, my original partner in Shapeshifters, kind of not really knowing what we were, what we're doing. EDM was big.
Yep, I was a Tiesto fan.
Musically, it was a tough time for a lot of us. And I think most of us will admit that. But for us personally, and me personally, myself and Max were going in the studio. We were trying things and everything else, but I think that was the point where I started to kind of think, he's going there, I want to be here, I don't want to leave my roots and what I love and what I believe in musically. So we were kind of making these records that were just kind of what I sometimes call the bastard child of nothing.
Right, okay. That sounds like a really fun indie band name.
Yeah. Yeah, they were just kind of not really one or the other true. They weren't true.
Because I've heard that something that was a constant battle between you and your partner was that you were kind of always leaning more towards wanting to create this disco sound, and he was sort of leaning towards wanting to make like the heavier things.
He was naturally, originally before Shapeshifters, he was really a techno head. He brilliantly technical in the studio, you know, very techie. And it worked initially because I brought that soul side of things and disco side of things, and the two really, and Lolas thing was probably the antipathis of that marriage, and it worked so well for a long time. But inevitably with relationships and life and everything else, things start to kind of change, and when things get tough, which was at that period because of musically EDM and everything being so prominent and being so far away from what I personally love, then the cracks start to appear. But I always believed in Shapeshifters still, and believed that we'd get through it because I believed in our longevity and the fact that we were true to what we do and everything. And the minute we started to not be true to it is when I started. So we made a couple of records like She Freaks, Helter Skelter.
I wasn't going to mention Helter Skelter.
Let's mention it. Let's the elephant in the room.
Specifically, probably not to mention Helter Skelter.
I hate that record with a passion so much.
Yeah, I know.
And it's probably the record I'm least proud of. And that whole anyway. Let's move on. I'm
going to soundtrack this bit with that track.
So then, in the studio and in our relationship and personally, you know, things started to kind of be at that stage where we're kind of thinking, he started to think, oh, is this what I want? But instead of being honest about it and, you know, and just coming to me and kind of going, dude, I'm done, you know?
Yeah.
He decided to kind of go a different way with that, and it ended up with us basically falling out because I found out he'd signed a deal with Columbia with another guy, and it kind of broke our agreement.
Wow, yeah, that's dramatic.
And it was a bit dramatic, and it was kind of, it kind of pierced my heart a little bit. But in hindsight now, it was probably the best thing that could have happened because it just made me kind of go, okay, great, right, let's sit down in the studio on my own for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah.
And I remember it clearly, I was at Damon Albarn's place in Ladbroke Grove, 13 Studios, and I went in with my laptop, sat down at a keyboard, and just started mucking around with chords and vibes and various things. And I sat there and I was like, damn, I haven't done this for a long time. And it was kind of scary, you know?
Yeah.
And that day, I put down the chords for When Love Breaks Down.
Okay, well, we're getting ahead of ourselves here.
Okay.
We'll get to that
Yep.
track. Before we do, I want to talk about briefly the era. What era was it that you were working with Peppermint Jam?
It was literally just before Nocturnal Groove started, which was 2003.
Right, so this is way back.
Yeah, so we were talking 96 to...
That's wild.
Yeah, so my good friend Musti,
Yeah.
who I adore, I'd met him and he asked me to run the UK side of Peppermint Jam. He was flying, he'd had Horny, and the label was amazing, he was playing everywhere. And it was a really exciting time. And it's funny because I set up a distribution company, a vinyl distribution company under the Peppermint Jam name.
That's crazy, I didn't know that.
One of the first records, the first record I put out was a Tool Room record.
I've heard rumours about this.
And Nick Fanciulli.
It's wild.
This, that and the other. Yeah, and I kind of think back to that period and it was a really exciting period. But yeah, that was the Peppermint Jam era, and the first parties we did as Peppermint Jam in the UK were at the End.
Okay.
Which then later became Nocturnal. But in 2003, I started with Lola's theme and made Lola's theme, and I kind of wanted to kind of breach out on my own a little bit.
Yeah.
So I decided to move on from Peppermint Jam.
So was your entrance into the industry
No.
Was it before that?
Yeah.
Okay,
so
what was the entrance? I need to know this now. We were meant to go from Lola's theme, but I need to know a little bit more.
Okay, so before that was Downboy Recordings.
Okay.
Which was Brian Harris, and I was A&Ring, and
A&R first,
this whole period was me working out who I am and what I am, really. Just wanting to be part of the industry and be part of house music and everything. Before that, I was running clubs.
Oh, I've heard about this because I mean you've got a passion for the small spaces anyway.
Yeah.
And I've heard about the club night at the End.
That is post around the Peppermint Jam time starting, but before that I used to run tours for people like Journeys by DJ, which were the first compilation series.
Okay.
And before that I had my own club, comically named Pure Filth, up in the Midlands, and that was 1991. Yeah.
1991, that is mental.
Yeah.
So
I was a shit DJ, not able to buy, to pay for really good DJs, so I ended up just playing in my club.
Which is kind of always how the best ones start, isn't it, really?
Yeah.
That's and is that where your love of sort of small spaces have always, it started from the fact that that's where you began?
Yeah. I love playing big events, and I think there's room for them, and I think there's, they are a thing, and you can't deny standing in front of thousands of people going off is an amazing thing. It is. But what's my first and real love is a dark little room with a few hundred people in it. Yeah. Having it.
Yeah. I mean, it's a very different feel.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get to, firstly, Glitterbox 2014.
Yeah.
I didn't know that you'd first played with your partner.
Yeah, at Boom.
So, yeah.
Do you know how many people were in the club?
I love this story. Wasn't there about 20? Well, I mean, I was one of them. So
yeah, I think there was 25.
25 people.
Yeah, I think it was me and Copyright. I was in Copyright.
I think maybe Dimitri From Paris.
Yeah.
Late Night Tough Guy.
Yeah, it was something.
So how was you approached with this new night? What was the concept?
Simon basically deciding that wasn't we weren't being represented. Not just us, but a lot of us, Dimitri, Dave, all of us, weren't really being represented in Ibiza.
Right.
And then you have conversations, and he's talking about it. I'm like, yeah, do it.
Do it.
And it was so brave to do.
Very brave.
At the time, and especially in Boom, a club that no one's got a clue about.
Yes. It was in the middle of nowhere as well.
And I to this day, I admire his bravery and the rest of us for going with it as well, you know, and sticking with it and sticking to what we believed in and what we musically felt was a space to represent us.
And because obviously the first season started and then it had to close, right? After
it wasn't a great start.
And then we come back in 2015. Are you now playing solo in 2015, or are you still with the partner?
I'm still with Max. I think it was 2000 and God, it's all a bit of a blur now.
Yeah.
But yeah, me and Max still, because we did Space together. I remember we did Space together.
And that was 2017. So for me, it's like the start of Glitterbox. You have this sort of bubbling era where it's a Defected Presents event.
But we hadn't delivered any music to
Exactly.
at that point.
So then you've got the 2014 to 2017 where it's kind of just like getting the feel as an event brand. Yeah. And then for me, when it really became Glitterbox was when it became the label. And obviously 2017, third release on the label and the first solo release from you, Tenny Tinks When Love Breaks Down.
Yep.
And I remember going to Glitterbox at Ministry of Sound, witnessing this moment of like, it's 3 a.m, you're dancing your heart out to quite fast music, it cuts. All of a sudden you've got this slow disco ballad being sung, but the energy is just incredible in the room. So obviously, I mean, what did you feel when you made that record and the process of like making that record?
I remember a conscious decision at that time to make records in the way that I miss making records, and that I used to make records, by using live musicians, great singers, writers, bringing people together and creating something. And luckily for me, I had someone behind me, Simon Dunmore, that understood that process with me, was into that process, because at that time not a lot of people were doing it. In fact,
literally like hardly anyone.
I don't think anyone. I can't actually name anyone. And it was the start of a process of confidence building as well, because every time you put out a record, you're putting your heart on the line, or you should be.
Well, you should be.
Yeah.
You definitely are.
I do, and I'm quite romantic about it, in the scene and everything else like that. So it was a real moment of planting the flag for Glitterbox, and Glitterbox was my muse.
Yeah.
So then when we did that Ministry show,
what
was really interesting about it, like you said, the energy in the room was a certain way at that point. When Love Breaks Down is a different energy, but everyone went with it.
Yeah.
And also credit to Tenny Tinks.
Well, yeah.
Coming out and being able to to be fair to her, everyone just thinks she comes out and slays it, right?
Yeah.
She was the most nervous.
Oh yeah, I've seen how nervous she gets, bless her.
But her talent is so big.
She sings and it's just gone. It's just insane.
Yeah. And I was lucky enough to have her as a vehicle for what I wanted to do as well, from a vocal sound point of view. When things just happen and they all come together at the right time, right place, and there's a lot of like-minded people trying to achieve the same goal.
Yes.
That's what Glitterbox was in the early days.
Yeah, literally. And I mean, with Tenny, obviously you made a few records with her, and there's quite a running joke in the office with me and the Try My Love single, which was the song that you were making when I first started. And I remember coming to the studio and getting to see you in action, getting to see her add in the harmonies. And I think for me, what was incredible about that record, why I love it so much, but your records in general, is this feeling of nostalgia with something brand new, and that you're making music, dance music, that have lyrics that tell a story, that make people want to sing along. And there's a running theme with Finally Ready, Second Chance, Try My Love, When Love Breaks Down, this feeling of uplifting, empowering music. There must be a reason why you went with that theme, and what was kind of your drive behind doing that?
I'd like to say there was a formula plan, but it's not. It's just what comes out of me. It's what naturally I steer towards. I love the power and the unity of disco and house, and there are some brilliant melancholy records. Finally is one of them. I kind of tend to kind of sit on the positive side of life, although there are some tracks that sound really positive, but lyrically, if you listen to them, they're actually quite dark.
Yeah, I mean, Second Chance would be one.
Yeah, for sure.
But it's dark, but it's still that sense of like sass, like you still you can sing the lyrics and you just feel like you just want to let your heart out with it.
And that's what I want. I want to be on that boat in Croatia, or on that stage at the beach stage or at the main stage, and have, the biggest emotion I get back from the audience is when they're singing my songs to me, and that is what makes me emotional. And that feeling, if you could put it in a bottle and capture it, you could sell it for a lot of money.
This, to me, this leads on nicely to what I think makes you stand out so much, and what's so special about this new era, decade-long solo career is this community you've built. I've never really seen anything like it in terms of the connection you've created. You have literally created a family. I mean, I've got some quotes to read out.
Go on, then. From
some of them. It's like he knows what my feelings sound like. I can dance and sometimes sing along to his music for hours, that even an extended 5-hour set is never enough for me. I have a handful of favourite DJs, but then there's Shapes. Shapes is one of the most incredible individuals in the industry. He never shies away from his true fans, and he is the loveliest, kindest person out there. The Shapeshifters is not only an incredibly talented DJ, but also someone whose love, devotion and appreciation for music connects deeply with his fans. Experiencing him live is a unique event filled with amazing energy on both sides. Simon is one of the most kindest, humblest and approachable people I've ever met, let alone the best DJ there is. He's always striving for perfection in every aspect of creating a musical experience for us, a level of dedication to his craft that is unparalleled. More than being an incredible human, being an artist, he's the reason why I met the most wonderful group of people that I am proud to call my family, and forever that I'm grateful. Simon is responsible for bringing so many people together who have become friends and family, and forever I am grateful for that.
Wow, that makes me quite emotional. It's funny because you kind of do what you do, and you just keep trying to move forward and stuff, and you sometimes forget the impact that you have on people. So yeah, I'm humbled by those comments, to be honest.
I mean, I've been first and foremost the Shapeshifters fan. Then I've been lucky enough to work with you, and even more lucky enough to know you. Mm-hmm. And the community you have made is special. It is. People travel from all around the world to come and see you play. They
do, and it always blows me away, the effort some people go to. I mean, even yesterday, the boat party ticket scenario.
Yeah.
I felt so guilty that there's only so much space on the boat, but obviously there's
for context, the boat party sold out in probably, I think, less than like two minutes. That one.
Yeah.
The Defected Croatia boat party. So we're sorry, everyone.
Yeah, I'm truly sorry, and for the amount of DMs that I got last night, I'm blessed that people have invested in my journey as well, and they are the inspiration for me. So it's a symbiotic relationship, I think is the word.
So do you think this sort of sense of community that you have has led you to create these sort of positive and uplifting records, and that's kind of like what drives you musically to create that kind of music?
100%. First and foremost, I make music for myself, without being selfish. I want to make the records that I feel I want to put out into the world. But then, during that process of making those records, I think about the dance floor, and I think about the people on my dance floor.
The connection.
And it's something I used to have with Frankie Knuckles. Every time I make a record, I think, would Frankie like this? Because he was my yardstick.
Yeah.
But it's evolved into the Glitterbox dance floor. If the reaction I got at Glitterbox was the one I was after, that was my yardstick there as well. So it's been very instrumental in my journey, and the people that have been coming in that community, and it all molds into one. And now I have this brilliant test bed.
I mean, it's quite special if you think about it, in a world of producers at the minute making music for content. The fact that you're making music to take to the dance floor, to create a unified moment, is so juxtaposed to those producers making the music for a piece of content.
I couldn't think of anything worse. The dance floor is still the barometer for me. Okay, I'm not one of these DJs that are like, oh, you shouldn't have your phone in a club, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. Spread all that away, knock it all back. Can I make people dance with this record?
And that's exactly why people should be making music.
Yeah.
And you do make people, but most importantly, you make people and me sing to this music. I mean, there's nothing quite like being in the Shapeshifters crowd, singing your heart out to one of your records. Like, honestly, it's just one of those moments.
And there's been a few of those that I'll never forget as well.
Same.
Yeah.
So yeah, obviously, Frankie Knuckles, we can't talk about you as Simon Marlin without talking about your relationship with Frankie.
Yep.
So if you could just like share just a little bit about it, because I don't think many people are aware just how close you were with him.
No, and it's not something that I always talk about.
Yeah, of
you
course.
know, I mean, there's a lot of people that do, but my relationship with Frankie was very personal. You know, the last 10 years of his life, we became very close, and he kind of, I didn't always get it right in the early days. You know, when you're trying to navigate your way through this industry, sometimes you do things or you act certain ways that you think is correct, and actually sometimes it's not. And he was very instrumental in teaching me how the best way to navigate this industry and how to be as a human being. He had such a big influence on my life. So when he left us, it was a big kick in the balls for me.
Well, yeah.
But he left an indelible mark on me that I still have to this day, moving forward, and will always keep with me.
Kind of makes it feel even more special now, thinking about when I am in the crowd and like everyone's singing along to your songs, to know that it's almost this full circle, because like the inspiration comes from the man who essentially created house music.
Every time I made a record, the first person I would send it to would be Frankie. And it's funny, just not long before he left us, I'd done a few demos as well, and you know, he'd commented on those and given me his thing. And like I said, still to this day, I think when I make a record and I play it out and stuff, would Frankie love this? So yeah.
That's really special. And I think what you said about the fact that what you're doing is making music for the dance floor, for people to dance, I think that's essentially what he wanted, right?
Yeah.
You're never bigger than the music.
It's exactly, that comment rings true still today, and the minute you think you are greater than the music, you're done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So 2022, a culmination of your releases. You released your first studio album, your first solo studio album, and it's a collection of everything, all your works that you've been doing with this new era. A special moment, surely, for you. Massive moment.
Yeah. I'm lucky enough to have worked with some amazing people.
Yeah.
That album was a collective of great Audrey Martels, Kimberly Davis, Tenny, you know, Jay Criv, this one, that one. You know, I wouldn't have been able to do that without these people. And I can draw a line, and now my natural artistic temperament wants to kind of move
evolve again.
The next stage.
Which is what you're so good at. Like, the thing that has kept you so relevant is that you're always able to stay on the cusp of like evolving into what's needed next. So obviously this new release, Beautiful Day, is a very different sound.
Yep.
And sort of how have you arrived there?
I think from DJing at Glitterbox and various other events as well, I felt like I'd done the maximal production side that I needed to get out. And then I felt like, okay, I want to kind of try and create that sing-along and big sound, but with less elements, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And kind of get back to a kind of more rawer underground sound in the tracks, but still with this beautiful moments on top.
Which it does.
Which is quite hard to do, actually.
Yeah.
But with this record, I feel like we've achieved it. And Lisi LaFontaine came across my table, and she's just got this such beautiful voice. And it's like, I've been thinking about this record for a while, and I've been thinking about a record that I wanted to encapsulate the feeling of Ibiza and Defected Croatia and all of these things. She's the girl that can deliver that in a way that's soft but powerful at the same time.
It's just got so much energy without it being in your face. Once again, you're doing something that just stands out so differently to everything else that's out there at the minute.
I think you got to really, otherwise, you know, if you're always kind of doing what everyone else is doing, then who are you?
Exactly.
Know? Everyone's always looking for the new thing, right?
Yeah.
But sometimes they forget how great things that are already here are. For me, it's that balance of pushing things forward, but at the same time, not at the expense of pandering to the TikTok world or to the, you know, to the industry. The industry, I don't care about the industry. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I care, you know, it's a necessary thing. We're all here, you know, and there are some parts.
You're doing what you do.
I want to be true to myself.
Regardless of what the shift and change or what's happening at the moment, it's...
Yeah.
And yeah.
There's always change, and you have to roll with the punches, and you have to roll with the changes musically and this, that and the other. But as long as you're staying true to yourself, I think that's the most important thing.
So people might not know, but obviously Lola's theme was rejected by the man who created Glitterbox.
Yeah.
And obviously Glitterbox then comes along, and it's essentially a party which it's almost like you foresaw this party with when you made Lola's theme. They couldn't go more hand in hand sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you ever have moments, or like at the beginning when Simon was starting it, where you had just like a little bit of feeling like I told you so?
To be honest, I've never let him forget it anyway.
How could you?
And there's always a dig. And to be fair to Si, he takes that one on the chin massively. But you know, it is funny how that record has now become synonymous with Glitterbox as well. And it is the perfect Glitterbox record. But you know what? Simon loves that fact as well, that it's such a big record at Glitterbox, and we've done it live there so many times, and you know, he got it in the end. He
did. It's just funny because it's almost like it's 21 years old, and it's like it is what Glitterbox is.
And it ended up here at Glitterbox, so it's now
a full circle moment for you, really.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I always, back in that time, I wanted to be a defected artist.
Yeah.
You know, but Simon didn't think I was cool enough at the time.
So interesting. It's so funny. I mean, I just love that. I love that connection. It's my favourite. So, like, your music, one of the things that's very important to you and what makes your music so special is that you're very true to using orchestras and real live instruments. Mm-hmm. So if you only had 2 instruments that you could choose, what instruments are you going to?
It's hard because there's 3. So if I was
That's the way I cut it down.
Yeah, if I was to drop one, so for me it would be bass, horns, strings, right?
I knew you were going to say strings, yeah.
Yeah, strings play a big part in my life. But horns bring the funk, right? And everything I try and do in my music has to have the funk, right? Even if it's a bit more of a laid-back record, it has to have the funk. And I think what gives records the most funk is brass and bass. So I'm gonna...
Right, you're going bass and brass.
Yeah.
Now I want to see a release with just bass and brass from you.
Funnily enough.
Oh my gosh, is this me teeing up a new one that I didn't even know about?
Yeah. It is. So
I'll
keep that to myself for the moment.
That's interesting. Okay, the name, the Shapeshifters.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever known why.
I don't think we have either, really.
Oh, really?
Do you know what it was? Is when we made Lola's theme, and I just set up the label, A Nocturnal Groove. And ironically, we'd been asked to do a remix by Peppermint Jam on Mr. Mike, Let's Do It Again. And that is the first time the Shapeshifters name was ever used.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we went, so should we, we've used that for that remix, should we just use it for this as well? And it was just out of pure laziness, we kind of went, yeah, just call it Shapeshifters.
Just out of nowhere?
Well, we both like sci-fi. Do you know what I mean?
That's so funny.
And it kind of had connotations of movement and dance and that kind of thing. So yeah, it's kind of just come out of necessity to label something. And like I said, we had no idea that record was going to be what it was.
Amazing. And now you're now you're Shapes forever more than Simon. I think people know you as Shapes more than Simon.
They do, but I'm cool with that. That's fine.
Okay, if there was one thing that no one knows about you,
I guess we were probably the first person to work with Nile Rodgers again. There's a track called Sensitivity.
okay,
And Niall's in the video and everything. And he came to our studio, our little studio in West London, and he turns up with his famous white guitar, and just sat on the sofa jamming away with us.
that's incredible.
It was fucking amazing. I was just like, oh my God, Nile Rodgers is sitting in our studio. And yeah, and that was way before the Daft Punk stuff and all of that kind of thing. So yeah, that's kind of not a lot of people know that.
Yeah, that's very impressive. Last
Yeah.
little fact there. I think that's pretty much all my points. I think it's just, for me, incredible that you have managed to sustain this decade of just being so on the cusp of something new while always keeping true to like exactly what Glitterbox stands for, and this uplifting, empowering, unity, and everything that it represents is like everything you work on. And
Well, I think Glitterbox represents something special.
yeah,
Okay, so I'm lucky enough as well, it all kind of came together at the same time. So I think, you know, the symbiosis between what I do and what Glitterbox is, you know, that's just one of those magic moments, you know, and I hope it continues for a long time.
amazing. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thanks,
Thank
Shapes.
you. Yeah, well, you're welcome.
Is there anything else you wanted to discuss that we missed?
No, I'm in your. It was all about you. Well done.
Thank
really
you.
Good.